Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews and another action movie night. Tonight, I will be reviewing The Crow, released in 1994, directed by Alex Proyas, from a script by David J. Chow and John Shirley, starring Brandon Lee, Rochelle Davis, Ernie Hudson, Michael Wincott, Bai Ling, Sofia Shinas, Anna Levine, David Patrick Kelly, Angel David, Laurence Mason, Michael Massee, Tony Todd, Jon Polito, and Marco Rodriguez. Now, at the time I'm doing this recording, it is the same date as when this film came out in theaters 30 years ago. So this is the 30th anniversary of this film coming in theaters. Now, unlike a lot of people before The Crow came out, I was aware of the graphic novel that this was based on, from James O'Barr, and I was fully aware of Brandon Lee as an actor. I had seen him in Legacy of Rage, a Hong Kong action film, which he was highly impressive in. And he followed that with a Turner Broadcasting film called Laser Mission with Ernest Borgnine. And right after that, he ended up moving right on to Showdown in Little Tokyo, working alongside Dolph Lundgren. And then after that, of course, he did the movie that most people remember Brandon for, other than The Crow, and that was Rapid Fire, which I've already reviewed that film on this channel. So if you haven't seen that review, go ahead and check that out up here. But I was excited when Edward Pressman and Alex Proyas announced that Brandon Lee would have been playing Eric Draven in this, because, like I said, I had read the original James O'Barr graphic novel, and I knew about that, and I just saw with Brandon, I was like, this is going to be impressive. This is going to, you really put him on the map, I thought, He already had a bright future ahead of him after Rapid Fire, but to follow it with The Crow, that just, I thought, man, this is going to be great. And then I remember it vividly. I was watching TV one day, and a broadcast came across that Brandon had been shot, in an accidental shooting there, and was in the hospital. And I was hoping that he was going to make it through it. And then the next day, I was seeing, the broadcasts of, because this was before social media stuff, where you see this stuff right there on your phone and everything. But this was 30 years ago. But I saw it on a broadcast after that, the next day, that they announced that Brandon didn't make it. And that was so hard. Because, like I said, I was a fan of his work prior to this. And then as more of the details came out, it was revealed that the weapons master, who was supposed to have been, checking the guns and everything, was let go early that day. They ended up shooting a scene with a revolver, a .357 Magnum. And for those guns, whenever you're aiming it toward the camera for shots, they usually use dummy rounds, full dummy rounds that they'll put in there and then they'll just eject those out and put in the blanks after that. But for some reason on this set of The Crow, they were going cheap on it, and they were just taking the ends of real rounds and just sticking it in the ends of the revolver to make it look like it had bullets inside of it for the shots when they were aiming the gun toward the camera. And so the prop master took over as the weapon master that day, and wasn't aware of, how to handle the guns, and they just basically, took the guns and, ejected out the dummy little pieces that were in there. But one of them was lodged in there, and whenever they loaded the blank, when that one was in there, it jammed it right in even further, and when it was fired, it fired like a real gun. And because of this incident, we lost a bright future star in Brandon Lee. And not only that, but this incident affected a lot of people that were working on The Crow as well. Most notably Rochelle Davis, who played Sarah, and of course Michael Massee, who played Bun Boy, who was responsible for shooting Brandon. And I always felt bad for Michael Massee on this film, and he recently passed away in 2016, and I had felt so bad for him because he had a promising career ahead of him as well. Very talented actor. I just can't even imagine how he felt after that incident. I know it affected him in a major way because, he just dropped out of acting completely for a while.
But I just took a year off and I went back to New York and didn't do anything. I didn't work, didn't do anything. I just spent it with close friends and family.
But this affected so many people. Rochelle Davis, of course, was just a child actress working on this film, and she had a bright future ahead of her, possibly, too, because, she, was this bright, little bushy-tailed young actress on the set of this film, and she gets to know this awesome actor with Brandon Lee, and then he's taken. She gave up acting completely after this film, unfortunately. And it was doubted that they would even finish the film because Alex Proyas and Edward Pressman, they shelved the movie for quite some time, thinking that they weren't even going to go back to finishing it and doing anything with it, because it hurt so many people. That incident did. But from what I've heard, it was Eliza Hutton, Brandon Lee's fiance, who they were going to be married after he finished filming on The Crow. It was Eliza who convinced Alex Proyas to finish the film because she thought that Brandon would want people to see this film that he was so proud to be a part of. And he should have been proud. His performance in here as Eric Draven is such a great performance. He goes through so many different spectrums of emotions in the film, and I knew he had that in him because I had seen him in other films. But he plays every aspect of this character to perfection. And had great chemistry with not only Rochelle Davis is. He also had a really great chemistry alongside Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Darrell Albright. The scenes that they have together, it's just fun. The chemistry between the two of them. Ernie Hudson, I've always said, is a really great actor. And in this role, he was really... His character was there to witness the aftermath of the murders of Eric and Shelley in the film. And of course, after the incident happened, they completely changed how Eric and Shelley are killed, as the footage of Brandon getting shot was completely destroyed, thankfully. And they, instead of shooting Brandon, they ended up using Brandon's double for the film. They ended up doing the character away by throwing him out of a window and everything. But everyone in this film was putting on a clinic, an acting. Michael Wincott was amazing as Top Dollar, the main villain. And then you had Bai Ling as Micah, his supposed sister. I like the line that Jon Polito's Mr. Gideon says when he introduces his supposed sister to him.
One of the most important things I learned from my sister.
Sister? She's supposed to be your sister?
And that's another performance that was so great in this film. Jon Polito as Gideon was he was a trip. I love the scenes with him and Brandon.
Suddenly, I heard a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
You're trespassing. And you owe me a fucking new door.
Mr. Gideon.
Who?
You're not paying attention.
Look, man, take anything you want.
Thank you.
Take anything!
Your job will be to tell the rest of them that death is coming for them. Tonight. Tell them Eric Draven sends his regards.
Is that gasoline I smell?
No, man. No!
Brandon just had this chemistry that anyone on screen with him just was better for it. He just had this style about him that it just made everything better. Even though they were only little quick flashbacks, Sofia Shinas as Shelley, those scenes, you just can see how great of an actor Brandon was in those sequences. And then, of course, the moment that always, without fail, when I watch this film, I cannot watch it without crying. And that is when Brandon returns to his grave at the end of the film, and Sofia Shinas' Shelley comes up on him, and that sequence, based on what we already know, that he didn't make it through this production and is gone, it always hits me harder than I don't know if I would have reacted the same way if that hadn't happened. But considering it did, it's just this film is such a great cinema achievement. I am so glad that if it's true that Eliza talked Alex into finishing the film. You have so many great performances in this film. You have Anna Levine as Darla, and the scenes in which she is a big morphine user, and the scenes where he purges her of that morphine.
Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. Morphine is bad for you. Your daughter is out there on the streets waiting for you.
God, that sequence is so good and powerful. David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, Angel David as Skank, and Laurence Mason as Tintin, and of course Michael Massee as Fun Boy are just such a interesting group of villains in this film, working under Michael Wincott. Now, in the graphic novel, Top Dollar was not the main villain. That's a change that they made to the final film. But I think it works for film aspects. The main villain of the actual graphic novel was T-Bird. So when they made it Top Dollar, who was a smaller character in the graphic novel originally, and they cast a great actor like Michael Wincott in there. I mean, he's just got that voice. I love the sequence when Brandon comes in and he faces off with him for the first time.
You're him, the Avenger, the killer of killers. Nice outfit. Not sure about his face, though.
And most people mistakenly think that the moment when he tells them to fire at Brandon and they all shoot him, that's where Brandon ended up getting shot. No, you're not seeing him get shot ever in that film. Like I said, that was the flashback scene to the death sequence for their characters initially. But Brandon put so much into this film with both his martial arts expertise, his just mannerisms that he would do on the film, made it such an iconic character, which is why I do not think that this film should ever be remade, let alone this new film. Even when they did the television series The Crow, Stairway to Heaven with Mark Dacascos, that show, it never felt as good to me as what this did, because I love Mark Dacascos, and he was probably the only other person that could have played that character and, made it as good as Brandon. But you're following Brandon, and there's no way of following that. And the way that they're doing this Bill Skarsgård, film, it just... Number one, the graphic novel that this is based on from James O'Barr was written because of James O'Barr's loss that he felt at losing his girlfriend to a drunk driver. And yet this new movie decides that it's going to make Eric and Shelley recovering drug addicts. Why would you do that? But anyway, I am not interested in that film. To me, this film should never be touched. This is one of the greatest cinematic achievements ever. Alex Proyas' style, visuals, the way that he brings the city to life in this film, it just is one of the greatest worlds completely created for a film that feels like a real place, but not in our kind of a realm. It's such a fantasy kind of a world in there, in a way, but in a realistic aspect in a way. But I just love this film, and I cannot say enough about it. I mean, I just wish that we could have had this film come out and not have the tragedy connected to it. Brandon, we miss you, man. And I would have loved to have saw what you would have done in your future films after this one. So, my final review of The Crow from 1994. I am going to give this film a 10 out of 10. It is an absolutely perfect masterpiece. And I just hope that modern audiences will go to see this movie now that it's back in theaters and will embrace it and not this newer movie, because they're doing it all wrong. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my review? Do you disagree? I know I got a little more emotional on this one due to the fact that of how I feel about Brandon. But hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified about future videos just like this one. And while you're by the subscribe button, why don't you click that join button and become a Dark Knight fan. Well, that's it for another action movie night. If you missed last week's action movie night, check out the link above to get caught up on that one. And if you've missed any other videos, check out this down here where you can watch a playlist of any of our action movie nights that you have missed.